Have you ever wondered what happens when two people share a bed but live in separate worlds? When they sit across from each other at dinner but never really see each other? When one heart reaches out and the other one scrolls? Teresa Sanchez de Tepeda y Ahumada was born on March 28, 1515 in Avila, Spain. Her mother died when Teresa was 14. Grief split her open. She turned to the Virgin Mary, but something deeper was calling. At 21, she entered the Carmelite Monastery of the Incarnation. 3 years later, she fell into a coma that lasted 4 days. When she woke, her legs were paralyzed. She spent 3 years unable to walk. But during those 3 years, something changed. She learned what it meant to be present, not just physically in a room, but truly present with another being. She learned to know God not as a concept or a prayer list, but as someone you meet in the silence when you stop running. By 1554, at 39 years old, Teresa had what she called a second conversion. She saw a statue of Christ wounded and bleeding. She threw herself on the ground. From that moment, she began documenting something that would shake the foundation of how we understand intimacy. She wrote about 7 mansions, 7 rooms in the soul, 7 levels of knowing someone. The first mansion she called distracted, the soul submerged in worldly things, deaf and dumb to the divine presence. Sound familiar? On November 18th, 1572, Teresa had a vision during Holy Communion. Christ appeared to her. He offered his right hand. He said, "See this nail? It is the sign of our union. From this day on, you are my bride." She called it spiritual marriage, total union, complete knowing. Here's what she wrote. "The union is like rain falling from the sky into a river. All is water. The rain that fell from heaven cannot be divided or separated from the water of the river. 2 wax candles with tips touching so closely, there is but one light. The wick, the wax, and the light become one." If you value documented history and research like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual using sources from Teresa's own writings in the interior castle, completed November 29th, 1577, and her autobiography, The Life of Teresa of Jesus, along with historical documentation from the Institute for Family Studies and Baylor University research on modern marriage dynamics. These are not generic sources. These are the actual manuscripts Teresa wrote under obedience to her confessors between 1562 and 1582, combined with peer-reviewed studies published in 2023, measuring smartphone interference in 2,000 married couples. Now back to the information. Fast forward to 2023. Institute for Family Studies surveys 2,000 married Americans ages 18 to 55. 37% say their spouse is often on a phone or screen when they would prefer to talk or do something together. 37%. That is 740 people out of every 2,000 couples who cannot get their partner to look up. Lower income couples worse, 44%. Higher income couples, 31%. Under age 35, 44% report spouse on phone too much. Ages 35 to 55, 34%. The numbers climb as you go younger and poorer. Baylor University researchers James Roberts and Meredith David create something called the Partner Phubbing Scale in 2015. 9 behaviors. My partner places cell phone where they can see it when we are together. My partner keeps cell phone in hand when with me. My partner glances at cell phone when talking to me. If there is a lull in conversation, my partner will check cell phone. 308 adults surveyed, then 145 romantic couples measured. Results: partner phubbing lowers relationship satisfaction, leads to depression, lowers personal well-being. Roberts said when you think about the results, they are astounding. Something as common as cell phone use can undermine the bedrock of our happiness, our relationships with our romantic partners. Teresa wrote in the interior castle that the gate for entering the soul is prayer, but not prayer as talking at God, prayer as being with God. She wrote, "The soul is a magnificent castle with multiple dwellings. Christ dwells at the center. The doorway to find him is contemplative prayer." She said, "If I had understood that in this little palace of my soul dwelt so great a king, I would not have left him alone so often." The key word, alone. Teresa understood 1577 what we are forgetting in 2026. Presence is not proximity. You can be in the same room and be completely absent. You can share a bed and never touch souls. Gottman Institute research. Successful couples turn toward each other 86% of the time. That means when one partner makes a bid for attention, the other responds 86 times out of 100. Eye contact. A question answered, a story heard. But you cannot turn toward someone if you are looking at a screen. Gottman researchers found accepting your partner's bids requires paying attention, something you cannot do if you're using your phone. 2023, data shows couples with smartphone problems 70% less likely to be very happy in their marriage. The odds of perceived future divorce 4 times higher. 4 times. Among couples with phone issues, 26% worry about divorce. Among couples without phone issues, 7%. Sex life destroyed. 44% of couples with phone distractions report sex once a week or more. 23% report sex not at all or once or twice in the past year. Compare that to couples without phone problems. 55% sex once a week or more. Only 13% rarely have sex. Date nights gone. 58% of phone-addicted couples report no date nights or only a few times a year. 48% of couples without phone problems report the same. 10 percentage point difference, but that translates to time. Hours, days, years of never sitting across the table and just seeing each other. 1 in 5 people checks phone during sex. During? Not before. Not after. During. Researcher Katie Golem wrote excessive device usage acts as a barrier to quality communication, leaves partners feeling ignored or unimportant. Many report sharing a significant story and partner grabs cell phone halfway through. The message seems clear. Their phone is more important than you are. Teresa wrote about the third mansion. People extremely desirous of not offending God, lovers of penance and recollection and prayer, regular in their actions. But she warned human nature still remains an oppressive burden. They find few spiritual joys. Why? Because they are going through motions without true presence. She said in the sixth mansion, bride and groom see each other for a long period. As soul receives increasing favors, it also receives afflictions. Bodily sickness, persecution, depression, comparable only with tortures of hell. But through that suffering, the soul learns to be present through pain, to not run, to stay. Modern couples run. Study from University of Arizona, 143 married or cohabiting women. Majority reported phones, computers, and technology devices significantly disruptive in relationships. Higher levels of technoference associated with greater relationship conflict and lower relationship satisfaction. Greater smartphone interference makes people more depressed, lowers overall life satisfaction. Technoference. The word did not exist before smartphones. Now it is a field of study. Chicago University Wilhelm Hoffman research. The urge to check social media is stronger than the urge for sex. Stronger. Nicholas Kardaras, former Stony Brook medicine clinical professor, calls screen time digital cocaine. Internet addiction has similar brain correlates to heroin and other recreational drugs. Teresa wrote about the fifth mansion, the prayer of union. The soul prepares for the gift of God's presence. The faculties of the soul are asleep, short in duration, but while it lasts, the soul is completely possessed by God. She described it as being so changed by the intense experience that it longs to suffer and even die for God. That level of intimacy, that level of knowing. It requires vulnerability. It requires putting down every defense, every distraction, every escape route. It requires being so fully present that your soul is naked before another. How many married couples today can say they have experienced that with each other? Not just physically, not just legally, but that deep inner knowing where two souls touch and there is no separation, where you know your spouse's heart better than you know your Instagram feed, where you can sense their mood before they speak, where silence together is not awkward but communion. Teresa described spiritual marriage in the seventh mansion as transformation made complete, no higher state possible. She wrote, "The spiritual nuptials is like when rain falls from sky and a river, all is water. Rain from heaven cannot be divided or separated from water of river, or like bright light entering a room through 2 different windows. Streams of light are separate when entering, but they become one." Marriage therapist Andrew Sofin worked in field for over 25 years. He said, "Biggest change I have seen in relationships is the smartphone. They have caused more upheaval than anything I have seen in my career. We have normalized them being intrusive and taking precedence. People lying in bed playing Wordle or scrolling through TikTok rather than talking to each other. Smartphones designed to fulfill needs and wants instantly. That is not realistic in real life. A healthy relationship requires you to slow down and listen to each other. But our lives do not allow for that. Researchers write routine conversation dates, and sex connects spouses and fosters stability and happiness. Addiction to smartphones crowds out opportunity for couples to make time for one another." Teresa warned in The Way of Perfection, written between 1562 and 1566, that we must go beyond our own efforts into reliance on grace. She emphasized love of neighbor detachment and humility as essential foundation. She asked, "How can you say you love God whom you have not seen if you do not love your spouse whom you see every day?" The more advanced you are in love of your neighbor, the more advanced you are in love of God. Translation. If you cannot put down your phone to listen to your wife describe her day, you do not know what love is. If you scroll through Twitter while your husband tries to tell you about his fears, you are not present, you are absent. And absence repeated becomes abandonment. Time spent on smartphones averages 5 hours, 16 minutes per day. According to 2024 survey data, 5 hours. That is 70 days per year, 1,950 hours. If you are married for 40 years, that is 2,800 days spent looking at a screen instead of at the person you promised to love. Lower income marriages more fragile to begin with, extended networks in precarious state, spouses bear greater psychological and relational load. Phone addiction in that context is recipe for failure, recipe for divorce. Wang and Toscano from Institute for Family Studies wrote, "Marriage is the thread that holds society together. But the thread is fraying, not because of lack of love, because of lack of attention, because we have normalized distraction, because we have accepted that sitting next to someone while both scroll separate feeds counts as quality time." Teresa understood attention is the beginning of intimacy. She wrote in 1577 that the disposition which prepares us is to listen attentively to whatever our Lord shall speak to us interiorly. Listen attentively. Not half listen while checking notifications, not pretend to listen while composing a mental response, actually listen. She said, "Soul is like a sponge absorbing and saturated with water. It overflows with divinity." She heard the words, "Do not try to hold me within yourself, but try to hold yourself within me." That is surrender. That is presence. That is saying I am here, fully, completely. No part of me is somewhere else. Is modern relationships struggle because both partners are somewhere else, physically present, mentally in 100 different group chats and comment sections and email threads. The person sitting across from you at breakfast deserves your attention more than someone's vacation photos from a place you will never visit. Research shows conversations with no smartphones present rated as significantly higher quality than those with smartphones around. We feel more empathy when smartphones put away. We notice facial expressions, tears, frowns, smiles. We hear nuances in tone of voice, shaky with anxiety. We notice body posture, slumped and sad or excited and enthusiastic. Phubbing, phone snubbing, became one of major sources of relationship conflict in recent years. When phubbed people turn to social media themselves, presumably to seek inclusion, the cycle feeds itself. You ignore me, so I ignore you, so you ignore me harder, so I disappear into my phone completely. Teresa spent 17 years struggling to let go of worldly detachments. Around age 40, she finally conformed her life to will of God. Then her extraordinary spiritual life flourished. 17 years, not 17 days, not 17 weeks. Years of practicing presence. Years of choosing to be available. Years of learning to sit in silence without running. Most modern marriages do not make it 17 months of intentional practice. First sign of discomfort, someone reaches for phone. Awkward silence, someone scrolls. Difficult conversation, someone suddenly remembers urgent email that needs checking. But Teresa warned about self-deception. She stressed importance of humility, love for others, continuous meditation on life of Christ. She wrote, "Do not try to hold me. Try to hold yourself in me. Stop trying to control. Stop trying to manage. Just be present." 2015. Study partner phubbing causes relationship conflict. 2023 studies smartphone addiction linked to marital dissatisfaction even among churchgoers, even among people who attend religious services regularly, even among couples who pray together. Phone wins. Baylor researchers asked respondents how often partner does these behaviors. Glances at phone when talking to me. Every time there is lull in conversation, checks phone. Even during meaningful moments, even during vulnerable moments, even when I'm crying or celebrating or just need someone to witness my existence. One study participant wrote, "I told my husband I got promoted. He said that is great while liking someone's post. I asked him to repeat what I said. He could not. He had no idea what I just told him. He was in same room, same house, same marriage, but he was not present." Teresa described the betrothal period in Sixth Mansion. Learning to deeply love, increasing favors come with increasing afflictions. The soul learns to be present through pain, not to run, not to escape, not to numb, to stay, to feel, to remain vulnerable even when it hurts. Phone addiction is numbing. Escape, running from intimacy that requires risk. Easier to scroll than to make eye contact and say I am scared. Easier to watch videos than to sit with your spouse's sadness. Easier to refresh feed than to be present with your own loneliness. But Teresa promised something revolutionary. In spiritual marriage, the union is permanent, unalterable peace, not because life stops being hard, but because soul learns to rest in divine presence regardless of circumstances. Faculties almost totally united. Only ability left is to be occupied completely with God. Apply that to marriage. Imagine being so present with your spouse that your mind is not wandering, your heart is not divided, your attention is not fragmented across 17 apps and 42 browser tabs. Just you and them, two souls touching, two lives witnessed, two hearts known. That is what Teresa experienced November 18th, 1572. Christ said, "From this day on, you are my bride. My honor is yours, your glory is mine. Total reciprocal knowing, nothing hidden, nothing withheld, nothing competing for attention." Wang and Toscano recommend couples establish rules about smartphone use. Use basic phones, limited to talk, text, email. Break addictive qualities. Social media companies should remove infinite scroll. Community leaders should establish social norms. Too much screen time in presence of others is unhealthy, except when necessary for technical purposes. But here is what they miss. Rules without relationship fail. Limits without love breed resentment. You cannot legislate intimacy. You cannot mandate presence. It has to come from desire, from understanding what you are losing. You are losing the face of the person you married. Not the physical face, the inner face, the soul face, the face that shows up in quiet moments when all pretense drops and what remains is just human, meeting human, vulnerable, real, present. Teresa wrote in her spiritual testimonies about her experience of union. She felt such assurance of coming one day to fruition of God that she almost imagined she had already come into possession of Him. She was like one who, by legal contract, has received splendid property which will become his. Until then, she only held title deeds, could not take possession yet. Modern marriages operate on title deeds, marriage license, shared last name, joint bank account, proof of commitment, but not possession, not actual deep abiding presence, not the kind of knowing where you can sense your spouse's pain before they name it, where you recognize their joy in the way they walk into a room, where you understand their silence because you have sat in enough silences together to know what each one means. Canadian therapist Sofin said smartphones fulfill people's needs instantly. Real relationships require slowing down, listening, but our lives do not allow for that. So we choose instant, we choose easy. We choose the device that never asks us to be uncomfortable or patient or fully human. Teresa's writings continue inspiring spiritual seekers 600 years later because she describes something universally true. Intimacy requires presence. Love requires attention. Union requires surrender. Whether with God or with another person, the mechanics are same. Put down everything else. Show up fully. Stay even when it is hard. Study published March 2025 examined reactions to phubbing by age and gender. Older participants and women advocate for more restricted phone use in social situations. Men view phone calls as appropriate in virtually all environments, including intimate settings. Women find phubbing in classrooms far more disturbing than male counterparts. Translation: men are more comfortable with divided attention, more willing to accept fragmented presence as normal. Women more likely to name the absence, to feel the disconnection, to say, please look at me instead of that screen. But this is not gender war. This is human crisis. We are forgetting how to be with each other. We are losing capacity for sustained attention. We are training our brains to crave novelty every 7 seconds. Swipe, scroll, click, refresh, repeat. Teresa called it reptiles in the castle. In First Mansion, she described venomous creatures crawling in outer rooms, distractions that prevent soul from going deeper. Today, those reptiles are notifications, text messages, email alerts, social media updates, each one pulling you away from the person in front of you. Research shows just having smartphones around increases anxiety, even if not actively using them, even if face down on table. The possibility of interruption creates tension, prevents deep thoughts or creative ideas, gets you accustomed to shifting to something new every few minutes. Teresa warned, do not let reptiles keep you from moving inward. Do not let outer room distractions prevent you from reaching center where Christ waits. Apply to marriage. Do not let phone keep you from moving inward with your spouse, from reaching that center where two souls meet and everything else fades. One researcher noted, conversations with smartphones around are never as good, never as deep, never as real. The phone sitting there is third person in the room, silent but present, always available, always ready to rescue you from awkwardness or boredom or the demanding work of actually connecting. Teresa experienced complete transformation in Seventh Mansion. She wrote, the soul becomes divine through participation. Two natures in one spirit and love. Like a consummation of marriage, there are two in one flesh. When spiritual marriage between God and soul is consummated, there are two natures in one spirit. How many married couples can say that about their relationship? Two natures in one spirit. Not two people tolerating each other, not two people existing in same space, but actual union, actual oneness, where what hurts you hurts me, where your joy is my joy, where your presence is my home. Institute for Family Studies data shows phone addiction affects liberals and conservatives equally, affects those who attend church regularly and those who do not. This is not political issue, not religious issue. This is human issue. We are all struggling to be present. We are all choosing screens over souls. Fear of missing out drives addiction, lack of self-control. But most important predictor is addiction itself, to social media, to cell phone, to internet. Brain scans show similar patterns to physiological addiction, same dopamine hits, same withdrawal symptoms, same compulsion. When separated from phones, people experience panic, anxiety, restlessness, hostility, irritability, anger, depression, difficulty concentrating, intense cravings for device usage. These are not mild preferences. These are addiction markers, and we have normalized them. Teresa's path to spiritual marriage took decades. Age 14, mother died. Age 21, entered monastery. Age 24, paralyzed for 3 years. Age 39, second conversion. Age 57, spiritual marriage. She spent her entire adult life learning presence, learning to stay, learning to see God not as distant concept, but as intimate companion. Modern couples want intimacy without the work, union without the vulnerability, knowing without the risk. But Teresa proved there are no shortcuts. 7 mansions, 7 levels, each requiring surrender, each demanding you put down distractions and go deeper. The choice is simple, not easy, but simple. Put down the phone. Look at your spouse, ask a question, listen to the answer, not while composing your response, not while thinking about what to cook for dinner. Actually listen, see the person, know the soul. Wong and Toscano conclude, most likely, scenario is marital difficulty and addiction to smartphones reinforcing each other. Without breaking smartphone addiction, underlying marital problems will be exacerbated to breaking point, near impossible to address. The phone becomes both symptom and cause, sign of disconnection and driver of deeper disconnection. Teresa lived from 1515 to October 4th or 15th, 1582, depending on Julian or Gregorian calendar. She died at 67. She wrote Interior Castle in 5 months, June 2nd to November 29th, 1577. During that time, she dealt with reform, Inquisition persecution, physical illness. She was not writing from place of ease. She was writing from place of hard-won wisdom. She never had formal education. She was ordered to write by superiors. She considered herself of little importance. She never reread what she wrote between sessions. Yet her theology was perfectly accurate. Her insights cut to bone because she was not theorizing. She was reporting. She was describing what happens when you actually show up, when you actually stay, when you actually know and are known. The parallel is exact. Modern marriage research is not theorizing, it is reporting. 37% of couples cannot get spouse to look up from screen. 70% less likely to be very happy, 4 times more likely to perceive future divorce. These are measurements, data, reality. Teresa wrote, God is not forthcoming in consolations we crave, but in complete surrender of will. Souls who do not practice prayer are like people whose limbs are paralyzed, cannot command them. Translation: you cannot have intimacy without practice, cannot have presence without choosing it, again and again, day after day, year after year. Lower income couples face additional strain. Phone addiction exacerbates already fragile marriages. Time spent intentionally together especially critical. But instead of connecting, they scroll. Instead of talking, they stream. Instead of seeing each other, they watch strangers live lives they will never have. Teresa said, deeper we delve into interior castle, the closer we come to divine presence. Reverse that. The further we stay from interior castle, the further we drift from any real presence. The more time we spend in outer mansions, distracted by reptiles, the less we know our own souls, much less someone else's soul. She promised, if you go deep enough, you find unalterable peace. Permanent union, regardless of external circumstances. Soul learns to rest in divine presence, faculties united. Only ability left is to be occupied with God. In marriage, that translates to being so bonded that external chaos cannot shake you, because you know each other, truly know. Research shows tolerance is sign of smartphone addiction, compulsively checking. Withdrawal symptoms when attempting to cut down or quit. These symptoms appear when without Wi-Fi or without cell service. Same as drug addiction, same brain patterns, same behavioral markers. Using phone in situations where you know you should not. While driving, during important events, during sex. Spending so much time on phone, you neglect relationships, family responsibilities, work-school hobbies. Prioritizing online relationships over face-to-face interactions. Feeling panicky at missing out on news texts, social media. Teresa would recognize these symptoms. She called them attachments, worldly detachments that keep soul from moving inward. She spent 17 years letting go, learning to detach, learning that nothing outside can fill the emptiness inside. Only presence, only union, only love. Final data point. Couples struggling with phone addiction less likely to go on dates. But date nights linked to happier marriages. So couple who needs dates most because their connection is strained by phones are least likely to have dates because phones have stolen their time and attention and energy. The cycle completes. You ignore me, so I feel unloved. So I scroll to numb pain, so you feel rejected. So you scroll harder. So we both disappear into separate digital worlds while sitting on same couch claiming we are spending time together. Teresa wrote in May 1581 to Bishop Don Alonso Velasquez. She described her spiritual betrothal. She had received such assurance of coming to fruition of God that she almost possessed him already. She was in position of one who, by legal contract, has received splendid property, holds title deeds, cannot yet take possession, but knows it is coming. She wrote, nevertheless, my soul would not like to come immediately into possession of God. does not believe it has deserved such grace, only desires to continue in his service, even at cost of terrible sufferings, would not mind serving to end of world after receiving such pledge. That is intimacy, wanting to serve even when hard, wanting to stay even through suffering, not because of what you get, because of love itself. Because presence with the beloved is the point, not the reward for presence. The presence itself is the thing. Modern marriage counselors should urge couples to establish rules about screen time. Use basic phones, put devices away during meals, create phone-free zones, but underneath the rules must be desire, must be understanding of what is at stake. You are losing each other, not dramatically, not suddenly, slowly, scroll by scroll, notification by notification, year by year. Until one day you wake up next to a stranger you have been married to for 20 years. You know their schedule, their coffee order, their Netflix password, but you do not know their soul, do not know their fears or dreams or the thing that made them cry last Tuesday. Because you were not present, you were checking your phone. Teresa's spiritual testimonies record her inner experiences. God telling her soul was like sponge saturated with water, overflowing with divinity. Hearing, do not try to hold me within yourself, but try to hold yourself within me. That is the instruction. Not how to possess, how to surrender, how to be possessed, how to let go of control and just be present in the relationship. St. John of the Cross, whom Teresa met in 1567, wrote about the same thing. Total transformation in the beloved. Each surrenders entire possession of self to the other with certain consummation of union of love. Soul becomes divine, God through participation. Just as in consummation of carnal marriage, there are two in one flesh, so when spiritual marriage is consummated, there are two natures in one spirit and love. The scholars at Wheatley Institute, an Institute for Family Studies, and Baylor University are documenting death of that union, not through lack of ceremony, not through lack of legal contract, through lack of attention, through choosing screen over spouse, digital hit over human connection, likes from strangers, over love from the person sleeping next to you. Teresa understood marriage as metaphor for divine union, but it works both ways. Divine union is also metaphor for marriage. What she described in spiritual realm applies to physical realm. Presence, attention, vulnerability, surrender. Staying even when hard. Going deeper even when scared. Knowing and being known even when it requires dropping every defense. On her deathbed, October 4th, 1582. Teresa's last words were reported as variations of, "I am a daughter of the Church." She died in Alba de Tormes. Her body showed no signs of decomposition when exhumed 9 months later. Her writings survived. Interior Castle, The Way of Perfection. Life of Teresa of Jesus. Hundreds of letters, spiritual testimonies. In 2026, 600 years after her birth, we have access to all her wisdom. Every word she wrote about presence and intimacy and union. And simultaneously, we have more technology for connecting than any civilization in history. Video calls, instant messaging, social media, email, text, voice notes. Yet we are lonelier, more isolated, less known, because we confused access with intimacy, confused constant contact with actual connection, confused being in same room with being present in same moment. The research is clear. 37% of married Americans say spouse is on screen when they would prefer quality time. 44% of low-income couples, 44% of couples under 35, 70% less likely to be very happy, 4 times more likely to fear divorce, less sex, fewer dates, more conflict, more depression, more anxiety. Teresa's path is also clear. 7 mansions, 7 levels of going inward. First mansion, distracted. 7th mansion, complete union. Between them is work, painful work, surrendering work. Staying present work, not running work. Marriage offers same path. First level coexistence, 7th level complete union. 2 natures, 1 spirit. Between them is choice. Daily choice, hourly choice. Put down the phone. Look at your spouse, be present, listen, see, know. The invitation never ends, Teresa said. God is infinitely patient, longs for intimacy, will continue to draw you in. Same with marriage. Every moment is new chance. Every conversation is opportunity. Every silence is invitation to sit together without needing to fill it with noise. But you have to choose it. Has to be deliberate, intentional. Cannot happen accidentally while scrolling Instagram and half listening to your spouse describe their day. Cannot happen if you check phone during sex. Cannot happen if you place phone where you can see it during dinner because might miss something important. Here is what you are missing. The person across from you, the soul you promised to love, the face that will age with you, the hands that will hold yours when you are dying, the voice that will speak your name when you cannot remember it yourself. That is what smartphones are stealing. Not your time, your presence, not your attention, your intimacy, not your focus, your love. Teresa wrote, "If I had understood that in this little palace of my soul dwelt so great a king, I would not have left him alone so often." Translation: If you understood what you have in your marriage, you would not ignore it for a screen. If you knew what you were losing, you would put down the phone. If you remembered what you promised, you would be present. But most will not. Most will read these words and nod and immediately check notifications. Most will agree phones are a problem, then spend 5 hours, 16 minutes today staring at one. Most will say they want intimacy, then choose easy comfort of scroll over hard work of presence. Teresa spent 67 years learning to be present. Started at 14, practiced until death. Never stopped choosing, never stopped surrendering, never stopped going deeper. Your marriage will last as long as you keep choosing, as long as you keep putting down distractions, as long as you keep going inward to meet your spouse soul to soul instead of staying in outer mansion where reptiles crawl and screens glow and true intimacy never happens. The data is in. The research is clear. The choice is yours. Screen or spouse, scroll or soul, digital hit or human heart. Teresa saw it in 1572. We are measuring it in 2026. Same truth. Different century. Presence is intimacy. Attention is love. Union requires surrender. 2 people, 1 phone, 0 real connection. That is modern marriage. Teresa warned it would not work. Researchers confirmed she was right. Now the question is, what will you do about it? In 1577, during completion of Interior Castle, Teresa dealt with persecution from Inquisition. She wrote anyway. She surrendered anyway. She chose presence anyway. In 2026, with easier circumstances and harder distractions, will you choose differently? The 7th mansion waits. Complete union. Unalterable peace. 2 souls touching. Nothing between them. No screens, no alerts, no notifications. Just presence, just love. Just you and them in the sacred space that opens when 2 people decide to actually know each other. Teresa experienced it November 18th, 1572. Christ said, "From this day, you are my bride. My honor is yours. Your glory is mine. Full reciprocal knowing. Nothing withheld, nothing competing." That is available in your marriage, not through mystical vision. Through daily choice, through putting down phone, through looking up, through asking question and listening to answer, through sitting in silence without filling it, through being present when every instinct says, check screen. The research shows it is possible. Couples without phone problems exist. 81% very happy compared to 60% of phone-addicted couples. 7% worry about divorce compared to 26%. 55% have sex weekly compared to 44%. 48% have regular dates compared to 58% with no dates. The numbers prove it. Presence works. Attention matters. Intimacy is possible, but only if you choose it. Only if you put down the device designed to steal your focus and pick up the relationship that requires your full presence. Saint Teresa of Avila spent her life teaching one thing: go inward, go deeper. Do not stay in outer rooms. Do not let distractions keep you from center. Press through discomfort. Surrender defenses. Be vulnerable. Be present. Know and be known. She taught it about God. It applies to marriage. Same mechanics, same path, same requirement. Presence is not passive. It is active choice. It is work. It is practice. It is getting it wrong and trying again. It is putting phone down 100 times per day until it becomes habit. Final measurement from Institute for Family Studies. Time spent intentionally together is especially critical for low-income marriages, as extended networks tend to be in precarious state. In such brittle social environment, spouses bear greater psychological and relational load. Therefore, addiction to device is recipe for failure, and as we have seen, divorce. Teresa was not from low-income family. Father Alonso Sanchez de Cepeda was successful wool merchant, one of wealthiest men in Avila, but she chose poverty. She founded reformed monasteries, 14 by time of death, each one committed to simplicity, to removing distractions, to creating space for presence. What if you reformed your marriage the same way? Removed the distractions, created space for presence, built walls against interruption, protected the sacred center where 2 souls meet, not by moving to monastery, by putting down phone. Research published through 2025 confirms smartphone presence during conversation lowers quality regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, or mood. We feel more empathy when phones put away. Notice facial expressions. Hear tone of voice. See body posture. Without phone, we are human again. With phone, we are fractured. Part here, part somewhere else. Never fully anywhere. Teresa described faculties of soul uniting in 7th mansion. Intellect, will, memory, imagination, all focused, all present, all absorbed in divine presence. That is goal, not just for mystics, for marriages. All your faculties present with your spouse, not mind wandering, not will divided, not memory replaying Instagram reel, just here, just now, just this person. The castle waits. Your marriage is the castle. 7 rooms, 7 levels. You are probably in 1st or 2nd mansion, distracted, fighting to pray, wanting more but not sure how. The path is clear. Put down distractions. Go inward. Press deeper, choose presence, again and again, until it becomes who you are, until you can sit across from your spouse and see their soul instead of thinking about your feed. Teresa did it with God. You can do it with the human you married. Same path, same work, same reward. Union, knowing, intimacy. Two becoming one. Not legally, not just physically, actually, spiritually. Souls, touching the divine spark that makes humans more than animals, scrolling through digital wasteland looking for meaning and likes from strangers. Your spouse is not a stranger, unless you make them one, by choosing phone over presence, screen over soul, easy over intimate, comfortable over vulnerable, distracted over devoted. The research ends here. The data is complete. 37% of married Americans prefer quality time but get screen time instead. 70% less happy. 4 times more likely to divorce. Less sex, fewer dates, more conflict, more depression. The smartphone is not neutral. It is weapon against intimacy, against presence, against love. Teresa's teaching ends in vision from November 18th, 1572. Christ offering wounded hand, saying, "Behold this nail, sign of union. From this day you are my bride." Put down your phone. Look at your spouse. Offer your wounded hand. Say, "From this day I choose you. Not my feed, not my apps, not my notifications. You, present, vulnerable, real." That is the invitation. That is the choice. That is what happens when two people decide to know each other better than they know their phones. Teresa saw it. Researchers measured it. Now you live it or lose it.